pledging to help during a crisis is one thing, but actually being able to provide that help is quite another, as Ireland is finding out during the Ukraine war. Just a few months into this conflict, not only has the Irish government earmarked a shocking €2.8 billion during a cost of living crisis, but we have even exhausted our accommodation options already, with pretty much every willing hotel in Ireland being turned into a direct provision centre. This has understandably left some people frustrated and annoyed, asking how come the state can find the resources to help Ukrainians, but not the 10,000 homeless Irish people who have been in need of housing for years. Which is of course a very reasonable question, and not at all racist, despite what Justice Minister Helen McEntee would have you believe. Even from some refugees' perspective, the situation is less than ideal, with asylum seekers being forced to sleep rough in the streets due to a lack of accommodation. So in short, Irish people across the country are starting to feel annoyed and neglected by their own government, and many refugees are being promised accommodation that we simply don't have and are being kept in subpar conditions. Even for the ones who have accommodation, some Ukrainian women and children are currently being forced to stay in a cold, wet military camp in County Meath. And recently, the government was even considering putting Ukrainians into a literal abandoned prison as accommodation. I don't know about you, but that's not exactly what I would call the red carpet treatment. Being put into a rundown, abandoned jailhouse, it's not really the Ritz, is it? And in fact, speaking of fancy hotels, I decided to conduct a small investigation this week regarding the safety back in Ukraine. Now, to be clear, that country has been through an awful lot, and of course the war is still ongoing in many areas in the east, so far be it from me to trivialize that situation. But in some places, such as Lviv and in the capital city of Kiev, things are rumored to be much more calm. So to get a sense of this, here's a map by War Mapper, with the red parts representing areas that are either contested or controlled by the Russians. Granted, the surrounding areas can be dangerous too, and who knows what sudden advances can take place in a war like this, but as it stands, that's the general combat area. Meanwhile, here is the capital city of Kiev in the middle, and here is the city of Lviv in the left. Now, it can be kind of hard to tell distances when you're looking at an unfamiliar country, so I'll put it this way. Kiev to the nearest danger zone, Zaporizhzhia, is 434 kilometers away. How far is that exactly, you ask? Well, it's about as far as Dublin is from London. So pretty far. You wouldn't really panic if you heard about a riot happening in London, because it's far enough removed from you that you don't really have to think about it. And the city of Lviv is even further away again. Lviv is roughly 700 kilometers from the fighting. Again, if you want a visualization of this, Dublin is around 700 kilometers from Amsterdam in the Netherlands. That's how far removed this area is from the main combat. So as an experiment, I decided to ring up hotels in these areas out of curiosity and ask if they had accommodation for a group of, say, 30 people, and this is what they said.
Hilton Kiev speaking. My name is Scallan and I'm sales department. What can I do for you?
Hello, one of your colleagues just put me through to you there. I was saying to her that I was interested in maybe booking several rooms at your hotel in Kiev in the next, say, month or so. And I was wondering if you would have capacity for something like 20 to 30 people, like a reasonably large group.
20 to 25 rooms will not be a problem, as I can see from availability.
Is it relatively safe in Kiev at the moment?
It is quite safe, to be honest with you. We have reopened since July and we are ready to assist the guests as much as we can. Yeah, of course, there are air raid, these sirens on, but yeah, it's quite safe. I'm living here myself, so to say.
So you think you would have capacity? You think you'd have enough rooms for 20 or 30 people?
Yes, certainly.
Is it relatively safe in Kiev at the moment?
Yes, everything is fine.
Everything is fine?
As I can say.
So you think you would have capacity for 20 to 30 people?
Most probably yes, if you will create reservation at least, 2-3 days before the arrival date.
Is it relatively safe in Kiev at the moment?
Yeah, more or less as much as possible, so yes, let's say.
And I have a small group of about 20 to 30 people, and I'm just wondering if something like that could be possible, if you guys would have capacity for that?
Yes, it's not a problem. We have 121 rooms in our hotel.
Is it safe in Lviv?
Yes, right now it's more safe in Lviv, yes. In Lviv we have normally situation right now.
Would you have capacity for 20 or 30 people?
We have rooms and we have apartments with kitchenette. So it will depend of you. We can offer both type of accommodation.
And is it reasonably safe in Kiev? Would you say there's significant risk of danger at the moment?
I would say it's okay now in Kiev.
So apparently there are large parts of Ukraine where things are, quote, normal and safe according to the people who live and work there, and where they have hotels which can take large groups of at least 30 people or more on short notice. After learning this, I decided to ask some Ukrainian refugees if they would be willing to go home if things were calm back in their home country.
I hope that the war in my country finished and I back to my home and to my family.
If in my country will be peace, yes, we going to home. To home because my parents stay here, and it's my native country.
If you had the option to go back, would you go back?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I would.
One guy that we spoke to said that he'd rather stay here, but even he admitted that most people he knew wanted to go back and that he was an outlier. If you had the option to go back to Ukraine, do you think you would take it?
The main reason why did I leave the country was that the economy situation would be awful. That's the only reason I left. So I don't want to go home. I'll try to settle in there. I know a lot of people coming back because they don't want to learn language. It's a great difficulty for them. They're just sitting here. That's the reason they're coming home.
And by the way, as a brief aside, I just want to say that the Ukrainians we met were some of the loveliest people you'd ever encounter. Really, really friendly and gregarious, and many of them expressed their intense gratitude towards Ireland and the Irish people, which was very welcome.
Ireland supports us very much, especially provides accommodation for us, long-term accommodation. As I see, accommodation here is a serious issue right now. So it's all I need. Accommodation, I've applied for a job on the second day I came here, so everything is great.
This country, thank you very much. Thank you very much for your help because Irish people is very kind.
I like this country. They take care for me and give me opportunity to work here.
So they seem to be lovely people. This is in no way a criticism of the refugees. We spoke to one teenage kid, a very talented photographer whose father was still fighting in Ukraine, and your heart would break for him. So God bless all of these people. But you have to ask, does what we're currently doing really make sense? We're driving ourselves to the wall financially. We're neglecting our own people who are in need. We're keeping many Ukrainians in cold, inhospitable conditions, and refugees from some countries are even on the streets after we promised to help them. And all the while, there are empty hotels back in Ukraine in areas that are safe, and the Ukrainians themselves are saying that they'd prefer to go back home if they had the option. If we're spending billions of euros anyway, wouldn't it make more sense to relocate the refugees to safe parts of their own country, and that way they don't have to go to another culture where they don't speak the language and their children's education is being disrupted and so on? How does it make sense to turn every hotel in Ireland into an asylum center when there are safe hotels in Ukraine which are sitting half empty? I know that taking in the refugees gets our government brownie points on the world stage, but do we really want praise, or do we want to actually help? Do we want a pat on the back from NATO, or do we want to do what actually makes the most sense for everyone involved? Instead of always doing the mindless woke thing, can we have a bit of cop on for once and do the sensible thing? Please like and share this video, and if you enjoyed it, please consider signing up for a monthly donation via the link on screen to help us produce more content like this. Alternative media like Gript needs all the assistance it can get, and every donation goes a long way. As always, thanks for watching.